Hi, folks. I am doing an interview with the folks behind God's Gang, which um, I gotta say, I'm a little bit surprised. Usually, most folks who get the Twitter treatment, where Twitter dogpiles somebody, they typically keep their dukes up and they're like, "How dare you talk about my creation?" But you all have a spirit of conversation, which is always a plus for me. It's always good for being able to flesh out like what brought you to your creation, what is your inspiration, what's the goal of your series, stuff like that. Because believe it or not, I think organic conversation can help a lot with people with actually a discussion. So I thank you, Nimrod, for joining me today.
So thank you for having us, and thank you for giving us the opportunity to tell a little bit more about our creation. You want to know how it all started?
That's the best way to go. Let's
Great.
start off with the very beginning.
So the very beginning was back in 2006. I used to work as a marketeer for the Disney channels out of Israel. They just launched a new channel, which was branded Jetix because
Yeah.
they acquired Fox Entertainment from Saban and Fox Kids and paid $5.2 billion for some pretty cool titles. And I think back then their leader was the Power Rangers,
Hmm.
but they also had like Sonic the Hedgehog and other um, known brands. And we were all invited into this Disney Executive Summit, which was held in Orlando. And they told us, listen, Nick are doing pretty good with this yellow sponge residing in Bikini Bottom. And there's this Spanish American speaking girl with a booted monkey that's also getting a lot of attention right now. And they asked marketeers, so what would you suggest that we do? And I remember myself standing, I was back then 36 years old. I disclosed my old age. Um, and I stood on stage in front of 120 Disney executives, just that you understand, these are managing directors, marketeers, and program managers.
Of course.
And I told them, well, I have two great ideas. Like I felt very proud. And let's send the first kid into orbit. And they looked at me pretty shocked. And I told them, well, you don't believe it, but I just corresponded with Virgin Galactic, and they're going to say they're going to be flying tourists to space very
Hmm.
soon for $200,000. By the way, only happened like last year, I think.
Right.
But um, I realized, nobody's going to jeopardize until at least 100,000 travelers flew safely back from on all the way up and down.
Right.
And so they rejected the idea. And then I said, well, I have another idea. Well, you just paid $5 billion for this group of superheroes fighting these clay aliens managed by this crook called Rita. Why don't you make them interfaith? And that's where I was actually very surprised because they all said, "Wow, that's a great idea." I told them, "Yeah, let's show we can work together, and let's make one a Christian and a Jewish and a Muslim." And they started auditioning, but I guess it was too sensitive for them back then to try and tackle on how we can basically come up with a group of heroes coming from different religions and cultural backgrounds. So I said, "Okay, I will do it." I thought it was a cool idea. I really thought it was a cool idea, and I know how Disney can become very successful when they're launching their brands and selling consumer products. And I said, it's gonna, I was vain and stupid enough at the age of 36 to say, yeah, people are not gonna stay apathic when I'm gonna put an interfaith group.
Hmm.
And I basically started drafting the Universe of God's Gang. I can show you a presentation I made with the same names, same characters, and different designers that worked on it back in 2006. But God's Gang with Ninju and Sumu Slim and Taekwondo Hindu, and we said, oh, these are cool names. These are very funny names, and
Hmm.
they do martial arts, and people like it. Why? Because people like to see martial arts, and they would relate to the characters based on their faith.
Hmm.
So it would be an easy global sell. That was, the assumptions in the early days.
So this
But
project has been, you know, incubating for quite some time then.
Yes. Why? Now, this is a great question. It's basically been waiting for I would say the COVID to come.
Hmm.
But it's not the COVID that was in the accelerating part. Basically realizing that I did a 15-year journey in two, I would say, parallel tracks. One I was very aware of, and the other one I had no idea. I was basically pursuing a path that led me to create God's Gang and take it out officially. So one path was basically as a pretty successful creative guy doing marketing, chief marketing officer, launching startups, and helping out different companies to do brand development and brand management and strategies. And and that was great, becoming more and more um, professional on Web3 gaming and
Hmm.
different AI technologies and so on and so forth. But that's nice. That I call it the work of matter.
Hmm.
But at the same time, I had a realization. I was very I was an unbeliever. I grew up in a family where my dad was a Holocaust survivor. And
Oh.
how can you tell someone who survived the Holocaust that there's God? And I was indoctrinated as an atheist. But at the age of 36, something very unique happened to me, which was the start of a wonderful spiritual journey, something that I couldn't, something, it's a singular point in time where all the stars aligns and you say, okay, this is not a coincidence.
Hmm.
I felt like there's a puppet master doing something that I wasn't aware of. Okay, and I'm curious. I'm a Nimrod. I know what Nimrod means for American speakers. I'm also Abraham. That's my second name. That's my real name that my mom gave me, which is very funny because like these are two opposing energies. It's a yin and yang kind of combination.
Okay.
Um, so with that being said, um, realizing there's something bigger than myself and my ego, um, I went to look for it
Okay.
and I basically searched for God. And the first place that I looked was, the closest place for me was Judaism,
Okay.
obviously. But no quote here. I didn't feel it was satisfying enough. I felt I needed to understand more. So I went and studied, I would say, the metaphysics of the universe. There are exterior books to the Torah, to the Bible, like the Book of Creation and the Book of Enoch and the Sumerian scripts and the Zohar. And then I studied Buddhism, and it was like opening more. It's expanding consciousness and getting yourself the understanding of, I would say, more truth about our life here. And since I pursued technology, it was very important for me to base it with science.
Hmm.
And I started understanding what quantum entanglements mean and what quantum physics and quantum mechanics and superpositions and it opened a wonderful world of realizations about who we are and what is matter. It's energy, basically in a high speed vibration, and it was all separated from a singular source. And I'm saying to myself, wait, I realized that we all separated the Big Bang, even from a scientific level, from this singular event, and which is called the genesis of the universe, and which is great. So we're all one. We
Hmm.
basically come from the same origin, and realizing this, I'm and you study Buddhism, and you study even in Judaism and Islam and Christianity, even the art of Jesus is love thy neighbor.
Yeah.
So basically, it all came down to two principles when I try to see how I can create a common denominator between all religions. Then we all come from a singular creator. And if that's so, then there's only one energy that needs to be applied in our life in order for us to enjoy life,
Hmm.
and that's love. And I'm sorry for being cliched or not very original, But love is an energy. It can be measured. And then COVID came, alongside me doing strategies and doing my consciousness expanding and realizations and experimenting with molecules. And I said to myself, this is the time for God's gang, because I felt that the COVID was some kind of evil energy that's been brought to our planet. And I started realizing that, again, we're being separated. They took the vaccine, they didn't took the vaccine. They did it, like everything became crazy. And I saw people walking in streets all over the world, by the way, with fears in their eyes, and with uncertainties. And there's the overtone that was, okay, I cannot leave my house for more than 1 kilometer or 1 mile, then 100 feet. Like every time they even brought us into a narrower space. And that basically was, for me, April 21 was the relaunching of God's Gang and taking out all the way.
May I ask some follow-up questions, if I may?
Of course.
So, off the bat, your intention, at least my impression, is one of real sincerity, which is a relief, because I feel like so much of this conversation is one of optimism versus pessimism, where I suppose in a world that does feel quite cynical, when I see something like God's Gang initially, there's that, and maybe it's just the way the internet's gone to make a lot of people very cynical, just reactionary. But to see it being like, oh, it has to be a joke, or this comes across as, insincere, when in reality it's like, no, you had a real conviction here that was not pessimistic but optimistic. You weren't doing this to sling and eat products. You were doing this because it sounds like it came from a really real place in your heart.
It came from the most honest, sincere wish. I'm a father. I'm a father of 3 daughters. I have a 21-year-old daughter and a 6-year-old daughter who just called me twice, and I didn't answer. I feel bad. And I always saw myself as a very honest guy. I cannot lie. Like, for some reason, I cannot lie, and that's basically maybe the good things that my parents.
Well, your
taught
middle
me.
name is Abraham, after all.
Yeah, yeah, a man of kindness.
Mm-hmm.
And Nimrod was bravery, if you study like the Tree of Life, and Isaac also. So with that being said, I want my daughters, I want the future generation and myself to live in a place where we join hands based on shared connections and shared values.
Of course.
And as a parent, the only way for me to educate my kids is being the person I want them to be. Set an example. Preaching and teaching and yelling never helps. Be the man you want your kids to be, or be the woman you want your kids to be. So following values such as, integrity and truth, and being kind, and having compassion, not coming on always from an egoic standpoint, but seeing the other, because we're a collective, and applying even unconditional love. Sometimes I always found myself, I played with the world, and I'll give you small examples. Saying that we can win with unconditional love needs to be proved, and where do I prove it to myself? Even in the small things that we do in life. We drive on the street and somebody cuts us. My immediate reaction is, oh, I'm gonna take my baseball bat, blah, 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 you just cut me. And there are people who might even get offended, and some guy went out of a car, and you know what I did? I said, love, 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 love. And I pulled my hands like this. Give me a hug. I'm sorry. I didn't mean it. This is where magic happens. This is a moment where you basically know that you have like the blue pill and the red pill. And by using the red representing love, is basically how you create magic on this planet. Now, this registers very well in also with understanding that matter is formed by energy. So once you understand that, our foundation is energetical, you need to look at the world from, I would say, two main perspectives that are reflected with us. One is the frequencies, and the other one is the vibration. Vibration is our emotional flux. So every time I open the TV now and I see war and I see climate crisis and I see viruses attacking me, I, I get my fight or flight
Mm-hmm.
activated. This is a very low frequency and a very dense vibration. I'm afraid. I'm now in tension, and I might develop anger. These are very low and dense vibrations and low frequencies. And realizing it, that every thought that we bring in is being released to this field, the quantum field. A thought is an energy, and my speech is vibration. And when I do, I create a construct. I said to myself, how can I take these amazing things that I learned about life, and how can I encapsulate them in a kids show, in a teens show, taking all this, beautiful toolkit that I managed to build to myself that basically helped me enjoy life
Okay.
and not suffer, and teach it through a kids show. And I'm a marketeer, and I think this project is some kind of divine intervention. Otherwise, I cannot explain why my head writer is a 5 Emmy Award winner and a Grammy, who did the Oscars, and Jon Stewart and Conan O'Brien and Ben 10 and Angry Birds. And my director is a two-time Emmy nominee for Transformers Cyberverse and Vampirina and the Oddbots.
Good resume.
And we were just joined by the ex-VP animation of Netflix, who did Arcane, Bruce Sage. So I'm telling to myself, they all get it. They all get what we want to commission out to the world in terms of values. We all know how important. I mean, first of all, we're an entertainment company,
Mm-hmm.
okay? And we want to entertain. We want to appeal to a broader audience as possible, even though it burns some people pupils when they see the interfaith group. So with that being said, um, we're coming with these stories that are action based and adventure and fellowship, joining unity, but sometimes you need to kick butt for God's sake. It's not a show about religion. We're not preaching towards any kind of faith. We're favoring everyone as long as they hold the right values.
If I may ask a
So,
question.
yes.
So, I feel like due to the nature of the show, and then you telling me about your journey, do you find yourself more at a spiritual place versus, I would say, subscribing to a particular religion? I'm
So,
Go ahead.
me personally. So, personally, I see myself as a spiritual person. I realized that after many years of trying to, to learn spiritualism from different indoctrinations and disciplines. Um, and also the way that we're currently positioning God's Gang is this is basically one of the first shows that runs on a spiritual core, because
Mm-hmm.
these are the understanding, these are the inner layers, the values that we bring in, the unity, the love, the oneness, the truth is it's for me spirituality, because religion is, my religion will save you. And I don't think that, we're not going to be coming to any kind of agreements on terms. If a Jew would go to a Christian and tell him, if you're not going to adopt Moses, then you're not going to be saved. And then the Christian would tell him, if you're not going to accept Jesus, and you're not going to be saved.
Right.
It's not a competition on who's saving who. We need to save our planet right now, guys. We have an emergency on planet Earth as we speak. Like, there's Ukraine and Russia and China and Taiwan and what's going on in Israel. And we need to start coming together.
So because I mean, I was raised Christian. Find myself more agnostic with a healthy dose of spiritualism, where I believe that humans are just spiritual creatures. And I know that there's, let's be real here, for things like religion and spiritualism. These are very heavy topics that have been around since humans could start drawing on, the cave walls. So to have spiritualism versus religion as topics, because I see that in God's Gang, I do see that you are trying to present them where it's like we've got a lot more in common than you think. And that spiritualism seems to be more of this common denominator where it is like, from the Christian to the Muslim to the Jew, there's faith there, but not as a, I'm better than you kind of way, but more of a camaraderie.
Exactly.
Okay.
You got it. You got it right. Listen, and it's also, we know it's a very sensitive topic.
Yes.
And I have no pretensions or even the basic understandings. Growing up as an Israeli, the understanding of Islam or Christianity, and it's also, it's fragmented from Catholicism to Protestant to evangelists, and it's a lot.
It's a lot, yeah.
Let's try and find common grounds. Okay, so who was Yeshua? Who was Yeshua, Jesus? What was his teachings? And for this, we brought in an interfaith council. Basically, the script, we did 18 drafts for the pilot episode. And we have a pastor. We have a rabbi. We have an imam, a dawah, a religious counselor. They're all on the website, by the way. And Sanya, our Hindu specialist, alongside a pedagogic counselor, because we're talking with kids and teens, and we don't want to, be doing anything that might be offensive without even knowing, and it's multicultural.
Right,
and,
right.
The base is in the States, so we do mitigate a lot of the sensitivities and the risks that might come, because it takes, and it's not me or us being proud of what we do, but you need some kind of bravery to put a group of people that represent religions. And for me, might some might sound stupid. No, light needs to be pushed on this planet constantly. And if we're not going to be teaching the art of love, this planet and its inhabitants is not going to be thriving.
So your mission statement is one of trying to create a dialogue when it comes to these different factions of religions where, for millennia, for even back before Jesus was born, there's been friction and combat and at odds. So I want to ask, because I feel like there's a lot of what you all are doing is not easy, which is why, like, initially when folks on, and I'm going to be very transparent, because looking at people on Twitter, someone posted the title, intro for God's Gang, and just immediately, here comes the very condescending kind of rhetoric that the internet's becoming more and more of an echo chamber about. And I was like, okay, I'm looking forward to this interview, because it's almost like there's your immediate proof that people are just far too cynical and can't be nuanced with what you all actually are about.
Let me share my day-to-day experience. So first of all, we to date we have 450,000 followers across social media.
Very good.
Yeah, 330,000 on YouTube, and 61 or 62,000 on TikTok, and that we managed to achieve it with a very low marketing budget. And in a very short period of time. It's not huge success, I know it. Like, I see this Nastia girl on YouTube with 111 million followers.
Yeah, start somewhere though.
Yeah, but it's I have to start somewhere, exactly. And with that being said, my daily hobby after I train at 6 a.m. in the morning is to sit down at 7 a.m. in front of my computer and go over all the social media.
Oh, God bless you. That's not for the faint of heart.
And I can tell you what the difference between the audience comments on Facebook and the demographics compared to YouTube, compared to TikTok, compared to X. We're very We didn't even start on X and on Instagram. We're pretty prominent, I would say, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook.
Okay.
And I tend to read because now it's already, I think, hundreds of thousands of comments that are coming in. But I tend to read the comments and the messages that we've been left with. And I monitor the sentiment.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, we know that there are gonna be a lot of haters, like the ones that were fanatically indoctrinated to a certain religion. It would be very hard for them to even open up and
Right,
expand their
right.
mind. But you, growing up in America, I can only assume that you, in your even your elementary school, I don't know if you were in a religious school or not, but you probably had a Jewish guy and maybe a Muslim or Asian, Shinto, Buddhist, whatever, and they could have been your best friends,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Yeah, I mean there was lots of from kindergarten to 5th grade I was at public school and there was quite the cross section of different walks of life. So correct.
And if you can be friends in kindergarten, if you can be friends in elementary school, and because you share the same passions, you like to watch the same shows on TV and to eat the same food and to dream the same more the same dreams, that's God's game. Okay, we basically trying to be the antidote for polarization. We're trying to be the common denominator for good values. And the way that we do it is we top it with action adventure and
I'm gonna
kicking butt
ask.
for God's sake
Yeah.
and fun and humor and like it's like friends. Okay,
Mm-hmm.
and we want to be the friends for the world. Whenever you feel that the world is narrowing you or closing on you, we want to be the good vibrations. We want you to come and see that there's still hope
What
for
do
us.
you say when let's say you're pitching God's gang to like evangelicals? Have you had that experience yet as far as like reaching out to different faiths where it's like, hello, Christians, this is God's gang? Would
Actually,
But
no, no. I want. We created an energy,
mm-hmm.
okay, and I cannot testify about my, us because that would be not being humble. But let me quote a colleague of yours,
Mm-hmm.
another YouTube a review that we got from. Can I say her name?
Fine, yeah, sure. I'm not sure who it is, but go ahead.
Okay, Emma Throne. That's her name.
Mm-hmm.
She's like an atheist coming from the UK. She has 190 or 200,000 followers on her YouTube. Don't know the woman, a young girl. I think she's 16, 17. And she did a review. And she started by ninja and she burst with laughter.
I,
Okay,
I,
she
I, I giggled to myself a bit when I first heard
no,
Ninju. That's a
well,
pretty
wait
good.
till you meet judo and jujitsu. But
I digress. I'm sorry.
um, so with that being said, and you go, she had a 29-minute review,
Damn.
and you can watch it yourself. On the 17-minute 50, she
Mm-hmm.
starts saying, "Okay," and I'm not 100% quoting. This is definitely a product of love,
Mm-hmm.
of good intentions, of kindness, visually appealing, that basically says that we can all get together. And I started bursting in tears.
Oh. Well,
Okay, Steven, that's
that
for
was
me.
probably vindicating for you.
What?
That was probably vindicating just to hear that someone could see that.
Yeah. And then I had another YouTuber, and he had 50,000 on YouTube, many followers on Discord and Twitch. And like he's doing a live review. He never seen the episode. He's giving his audience a live review and he comes as a hater.
Okay.
And then I don't remember during, he started to laugh and then he goes like, and he's wearing like this, he's an avatar of a cat with a pink whatever. And then he says, okay, I just can't hate it. I can't hate it. I want to see more. Like the universe collapsed during the review.
That's interesting.
And
You won him over.
yeah, we won him over. And then we had this, I don't want to say this woman with 200 followers that basically killed us. And she's a Jewish girl. And she said that this is an anti-Semitic and done by Jew haters and blah, blah, blah.
Well,
And
that's some irony right there, huh?
I'm saying to myself, she didn't even go to the website, because if she went to the website, she would see many of the people that were involved are coming from her tribe.
Yeah.
So, this is something that I cannot fight. I can only be. We cannot fight. Sorry, we can only be. We would be the example of the world that we want to live when we're not going to be here.
I gotta give you mad props for holding your head high and never giving in to like name calling or ignorance, because that to me is a vote of confidence for you all that in this very cynical world, especially with the internet where it's an echo chamber and there's again no real nuance to discussion. I've seen time and time again productions kind of in the same wheelhouse, not contextually, but when it comes to productions, get very indignant of any kind of criticism, while you all seem like you wear it on your sleeves and you're very transparent about your mission objective, which is, I think that's your ticket right there. Is go, yeah, we might come across as a little bit wide-eyed, but we come from a real place, and we actually, in a day and age where the internet's very superficial, to actually have some kind of genuine conviction and mission statement, that can speak volume. So yeah, my respect on that front. That's impressive.
Thank you. Listen, if you connected me to a polygraph machine, or even if you shook me, you wouldn't get any other truth. So I think truth is always prevailing, and I think positivity is always better than negativity.
Yes.
And with that being said, that's what we want to bring to the world. We want to entertain them. We want to show them that we can live in a world where we put our differences aside. We can enjoy a great, entertaining show, even though it might be perceived as religions or faith-based. No, it's a spiritual-based show that's supposed to be the place for hope for you.
Let me ask you something. Now we're gonna start pulling away from talk about how the meat gets made. For coming up with your characters during that process of creation, how did you all end up with the four main being? I mean, I know that it comes down to, well, what are some of the major faiths of the world? Christianity, Islamic, Judaism. Were there any other characters that were left on the, was there a Buddhist character? Was there, okay.
It was, I would say, the core, to try and take these four, because I don't know if you know what's the level of hate between Hindus and Muslims. And, back in the days, there were a lot of wars.
Yes.
And Buddhists were, I would say, pretty vanilla, because they're Buddhists. They always seem Zenish.
Right.
But with that being said, since we launched the pilot episode on social media, we learned a lot. Because you have some kind of collective consciousness based on 450,000 people commenting. So we realized that the peace symbol, which is coming from anti-nuclear symbols, might be seen as an upside cross.
I've heard that from Christians. I've heard that before. Yeah.
We didn't know that. For us, it was peace. This is a symbol for peace. The show talks about peace. So we will probably not going to use the peace sign.
That's a lot of eggshell walking you off the do. You have to vet everything out to the point where it feels like you're going to the nth degree to make sure that you're not offending anybody. But also on the flip side, is there a certain point where it's almost such a subjective thing where you're like, I'm sorry, that one reviewer who said you all being anti-Semitic, you can be like, you're just wrong. We're not anti-Semitic. That's just your incorrect take.
Exactly. You didn't get us right. And I hope you get us on the second time or the third time, because we're here to prove you.
Okay. Very good.
Okay. We're here to be the example. So also, definitely we're going to be introducing more and more characters for more inclusive and more balanced presentation of other people's beliefs.
Okay.
Um, like I, we were asked about satanism and paganism and stuff like that. I would refrain, or if we're going to have an LGBTQ agenda, or are we trying to do a one world religions? I think it's
I'm about to
overcomplicated.
say that's the challenge. That's the
So,
that's part of the challenge, though.
yeah, but you know how you overcome this challenge?
How?
You tell the story, and the story needs to come from a very clean, honest perspective that needs to carry the right entertainment
Mm-hmm.
elements so people would come more and more.
Well, is this episodic or is this story driven?
No, it's episodic. We
Okay.
have an amazing 10 episode treatments for the first season.
Is it
Like
already
our
done and complete? That's my
no,
next question, was to ask you what's the road map to success, because
okay.
currently the animation industry is like on fire, and I know a lot of folks are turning to YouTube as the place to distribute
Mhm.
because you reach out to more people that way.
Yeah.
What's your current trajectory?
So trajectory for 2024 is grow the audience through YouTube and social media, while our professional team is already in discussions with several um, streamers and broadcasters. And there are other venues that we can walk through. There are new emerging platforms that are coming in that basically, now to stream content, you just need a URL. And if
Right.
you have the echo for it, like just imagine what would happen if Elon Musk just took the God's Gang episode and tweeted it on Twitter for his fans.
For better or for worse.
That would be the game. That would be the day that God's Gang probably, that's the tipping point.
Right.
Everybody's gonna know in the world about the show, and whether they're gonna like it or not. Again, it's for us to prove that we're doing something that is coming from the most pure intentions that you can think of. And like I can't offend anyone. I cannot step on an ant. Like and you're gonna be seeing it in the show. And we're not gonna do evil any easy life. Like we know what evil means, like cheaters and greedy and manipulations and taking advantages of weak for yourself and so basically a lot of justice is gonna come. Um, and going just quickly back to religion and indoctrinations, reading the New Testament and Armageddon and reading the Torah about the end of days, and they all register very well. But there are redemption days, okay? And if you studied Christian, you probably is aware of there's a saying in English, a sheep and a wolf would live together.
Mm-hmm.
That's a sheep and a wolf. That's basically the universe where the redemption days are already there.
The
That's a sheep.
lion and the lamb lay
Yes,
together. Yeah, yeah.
yes, yes. Without saying who's the lion and who's the lamb, we don't
Mm-hmm.
care. They're all equal right now. But right now, this is basically like me and Nimrod taking a rod and like towards redemption days, and now I'm trying to pull it towards our
That's
days.
that's tough, because I feel that like you said, for a lot of religious faiths, they have those end of days. So for
Yeah,
them,
but
seeing the current ways of the world, they go, "Oh, it's the end days." Which, to be fair, in the Book of Revelation, God says nobody knows when that is going to happen, and I'm sure people were saying it, back during World War II, during the Cold War, so on and so forth. But I feel
no, but
like
you have the four disciples of the apocalypse in Christianity, right? Like plague and starvation and fires and earthquakes. I think we're already cleared three.
right, yeah. For a lot of folks, they feel like the seals are going to break here soon. But I suppose from a pragmatic point of view, where you mentioned before, like we have to save Earth right now, that's more of a. I think we all can agree. For all of us who live on this Earth, we should probably take care of this Earth. So I feel like there's a lot of diplomacy in your show, at least as far as trying to reach across the chasm and be like, hey, hello, Islamic person or Christian, let's try to see eye to eye. Which again, is not for the faint of heart. What you all are trying to do, I'm like, wow, you guys are very bold. This is a very there's a lot of folks in this day and age who'd be like, nope, ain't touching this. I'm too afraid. So the fact that you are doing it sincerely, even if initially, I'll be real, I'm gonna be honest, I thought it was naive when I first saw it. I was thinking like, this seems too naive. They have to understand that religion is just too combative of a topic to present in this tone. But now I'm thinking, well, hold on, maybe this just requires a bit more patience to see where they go. And is it really that harmful, to let something like this exist? I don't know. That's kind of the question that remains to be answered.
I can understand why you think we are naive. I wouldn't, if you knew me for, better, you would
Mm-hmm.
understand that naivety is not one of the traits that I hold. I am a very passionate person with a conviction, with a very biblical name that maybe was not by accident, like growing as a Nimrod and Abraham, and working for Disney and coming with the idea. Like when I ran my 15 years back, I feel like there was many things I wasn't aware of, but it doesn't feel coincidental. It all feels like I was in basically in some kind of unknown relationship, with, I don't know, some kind of energy to make this work. And we really have high hopes, and that this project, and believe that this project would become a very known project
Okay.
brand. We do, like, if you ask me, in 6 7 years from now, I would love kids to wear a small, God's Gang patch on their shirt or on their hat, even if not even buying it. I want to give it for free, just to say, when I wear it, just know that I'm kind, I'm truthful, I will help you if you need. Like, I'm not an asshole. I'm not a jerk. And also businesses.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why can't you have a God's Gang sticker on your shop outside, so I know I'm gonna get a great service. You're gonna see me. You're gonna put the consumer. You're gonna give a great experience because you come from a place of love. I know it sounds naive, Stephen. I know, but you have to start.
I respect that. You're talking about 6 to 7 years. Let me ask you this. So, let's say God's Gang catches fire during this year. Let's say you do a Kickstarter to raise some money and put out 10 episodes on YouTube. Let's say it's 5 years from now. Where do you want to see God's Gang in its full, bloom?
I dream on having 100 episodes of 20 minutes.
Okay.
It's
10
like
minutes long each episode. Okay. Okay.
Yeah, but online is a 3 minute. We're going to start with the 3 minute short, since animation is very expensive to produce. Two
Yes,
and a
it
half
is.
Toon Boom. We work with one of the biggest
Toon
studios.
Boom. Oh, I'm about to ask also about Toon. Okay, we'll continue. All right, so 3 minute segments. Continue. I'm sorry.
Yeah, 3 minutes. No worries. So 3 minute segments on YouTube, where basically we did a pilot episode with Infinite Frameworks, which is a big Singapore-based studio, but the animation was done in Batam, in Indonesia. 67 people. Most of them were Muslims.
Really?
Also, yeah. Now,
I thought that'd be the hardest group to win over in something like this. Potentially.
listen, I have a lot of friends in Morocco, and we have a lot of fans in Egypt right now. And when I see Egyptians clicking likes on a Hanukkah post, for me, these are the moments of bliss.
Cathartic, I'd
Real,
imagine.
real moments of bliss. Like, I know many Arab peoples. I also have many Arab friends, and just FYI, the backers until now were Israeli Jews and Arab, a
Hmm.
Christian Arab coming from Israel, and now we have a Turkish investor joining.
Very good.
So he's Muslim, and now I need a Hindu, and then we have the full wrap.
The
No,
gang's all
but
here. Literally.
with that being said, so online 2024, TV 20-minute formats, 25. I already started playing on what kind of games we can come up with. The next Zelda. Uh,
May I ask you a question? Why 20 minutes versus like 10 to 12 minutes?
you know what? I don't have an educated answer for this. 20 minutes is the Netflix, Apple format, the so-called animation format. Um,
You're
and 10 minutes,
I'm
10
sorry.
minutes.
I'm letting my animation nerd kind of sneak through where
No,
I
no, no. By the way, I might be wrong.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
No, you saw that the 13-minute that we produce is a very fast pacing. Like you have an intro when then they're responding to the Save the Whales, and like it happens a lot in 13 minutes. And we tested it with many people. I can tell you that younger audience love it. Like the
Mm-hmm.
tuck, 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 tuck. People more towards I would say the older audience, 30 all the way up, it was
Longer
a bit too
form.
fast for them.
Mm-hmm.
I've been reviewing many shows. Like, listen, I'm a geek. Okay, let's admit it. I grew up, even though we didn't have multi-channel TV, and I watched Scooby Doo, and I watched Fat Albert and the Globetrotters. That were the shows that
Hanna
inspired
Barbera, right?
the Amazing Spider-Man, and then a bit growing up, we had Transformers, which for me was a revelation. And I played Dungeons and Dragons, and Advanced Dungeons and Dragons, and Our Dungeons and Dragons, and I played flight simulators, and you name it, every CD-ROM that I could put inside a computer. Playing Myst. I don't know if you know, that was one of the most successful games in the world. It was a quest. Like this is, and this is the world that I grew up on, and with the right, I would say, storytelling. I collect comics. I used to collect Mad magazines, and others. I have a signed copy of a comic book I can show you. Not signed by Stan Lee, but signed by the hero that Stan Lee presented in the comic book. That was His name is Uri Geller. He's a mentalist. Never mind. I'm not gonna waste our time here.
But you're a
So
bona fide geek though. You like the nerd stuff. Good.
I like that stuff. Like when I saw Star Wars at 78, I was 6 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and you can imagine that for me, Star Wars was, I
Mind
found the world.
altering. Yeah.
And by the way, the philosophy of the Force in Star
Spiritualism.
Wars,
Yeah.
yeah, it's a lot of spiritualism. Um,
If I may, to bring it back, this is unsolicited advice. It's going to be off the record for the recording, I imagine.
mhm.
In my experience of just how much animation I consume, and at the end of the day, you're the creator, so you do what you want to do. I feel that a 10 to 12 minute format is the way to go. A lot of shows like Adventure Time, regular show, do that. I think unless you all really are story driven, I would say if you're episodic, keep it shorter. Because especially in this day and age where children's attention span is becoming much more quickly narrowed, I'd say, I'm sorry, this was not, I'm sorry for just saying it. I think,
Kevin, are you open for an advisory board position?
well, I'm flattered. Let's off the record revisit that. I don't mind providing, I guess, consultation. That way I can help and possibly guide it. But yeah, let's revisit that. Hey, I appreciate you asking even. But yeah, let's say yes, I'm interested in hearing more and
Okay.
come back to it. So I guess to bring it full circle, because we're approaching about the end of our interview here. What are your final thoughts? What do you ultimately hope comes from this, and what can we people watching this video, this review, what would you ask of them?
Um, to give us a chance to prove exactly what we've been talking about, that we come with the conviction that if we work on the shared values, um, we can be we can have a great journey on this planet. And they need to give us the time to understand that we have no harmful intentions whatsoever. Like sometimes I read the comments, and and many of the comments coming from Jews. Why is the Jewish guy stereotyped? And then I go to my fellow Jewish friends and I tell them, well, I didn't know that Jews were small, blonde, blue eyes.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So that answers their question. And I want people to connect to the energy.
Right.
Stephen, if you ask me, I know it sounds very too much to ask, but we see ourselves as an energy of love, fun, hope, in a world which is being polarized and separated.
Yep.
And we want people to connect to the energy,
Mm-hmm.
and that's it.
But so ultimately, God's Gang is despite the initial shock for most people, which would be like, is this for real? Is this satire? Is this naive? At the core of it all, you all are like, yo, we're wearing it on our sleeves here. We're just trying to do something optimistic and constructive, and that's that.
We're brave enough to do it.
That's
We're brave. We're brave enough, and I think before we're gonna regret that it was, it's never too late to bring a unique approach and perspective, which is it's very pure. Like
yeah.
I wish people would know how love is pure.
It's very innocent, but in a way where you all are not ignorant to the subject matters.
We would not form an interfaith council. We would not bring a pedagogic advisor. We would not, be joined by tier one Hollywood professionals if they didn't see what we want to bring to the world. Like having a guy from like Bruce Dage. The guy was the CEO of DreamWorks Animation for 20 years, a part of selling the company for $4 billion, then going as VP animation for Netflix, then working for Riot Games to do Arcane. It's I never imagined. I'm still seriously, Steven. I'm waking up, and if you told me this story like 4 years ago, I would tell you, what did you smoke? Like, are you crazy? Give me a hit now. But but here it is. And basically, we prove that, when you think and you speak and you act, you can manifest.
I love it.
And everyone can.
Yeah, that's admirable. I feel like there's a bit of a counterculture that might emerge here soon, personally, where with every passing day, I just feel like the internet becomes a more cruel place. And that even if people might initially think it's naive, they might find some kind of oasis in this very cruel desert and go, okay, maybe this is kind of fun after all. As long as it's done with conviction and it's not done in in a way that seems ignorant, but more of a no, we actually mean it and we're trying to be constructive and also informed. So
you got it. That's how we're gonna do it.
cool. Well, Nimrod, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate this interview. I wish you the best of luck on your journey. I will watch with great interest. It's really nice to know that you come from a place of real conviction. I look forward to seeing how far y'all go and wish you the best.
One thing, we're not a non-profit organization. We want to generate revenues.
It's a
Hopefully, right
business.
now we're funding everything on our own. And I know that one way is obviously licensing and consumer products and merchandising. But if there's one thing I can promise you and the audience, is that when we grow, and we will, the revenues that we're going to be generated are going to be recommissioned towards society to do the field work of what we try to be in the show. And I will prove that as well.
That's noble.
Because there's no, I mean, nobody needs to leave this world with money, right?
We don't need it.
Yeah, exactly. But others do.
Yeah. Good. I look forward to seeing that go into effect. Nirmal, thank you so much, and we'll keep in touch.